Our meeting will reconvene, please. Thank you for being patient with us. We can add that to our thousands of hours. I'm not going to forget this. I will die with probably something on my gravestone about this. But it's really been fun, entertaining, and thank you, Senator Pratt. I think if the governor does not sign this, he does not understand what it means to compromise and to work through language changes constantly. So please, Governor, do sign this. I'm saying that publicly because we have worked beyond belief on this proposal for a year, Governor, and so I plead with you to consider the good policy that's in here. So members, I am going to move the H0140DE3 delete all amendment for adoption and offer, first of all, the A43 amendment, which is clarification of the transition. Is there any discussion? This is basically what we discussed, but now it's in print, so we have it formally. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails, and the A43 amendment is adopted. Senator Kent offers the A41 amendment. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank everybody for a good discussion and willingness to have this conversation. What the A41 amendment would do would say that two members who are currently serving on the Board of Teaching are eligible for appointment, and this would be for 1 year.
Thank you, Senator Kent. Is there discussion? I think even though I was opposed, I could compromise. So thank you, Senator Kent, for bringing it forth and for allowing us to have discussion of it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails, and the A41 amendment is adopted. Senator Housley offers the A42 amendment. Senator Housley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What the A42 amendment does, it defines what shortage area actually means in subdivision 6. Page 2, delete subdivision 6 and insert what shortage area means, subdivision 1 and 2 there. And then also a Tier 1 license must not be renewed more than 3 times unless the requesting district or charter school can show good cause for additional renewals. A Tier 1 license issued to a teacher in a shortage area as defined may be renewed without limitation.
Thank you very much. Senator Housley, is there discussion? Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've had a lot of discussion over Tier 1, and I know that the Commissioner had talked about putting a warm body in front of the classroom, and that's never been the goal here. The goal is to meet the needs of students. And so, you know, as we talked about Tier 1 and the controls that we had in place, we already had that their appointment was up annually, that they had to, basically they had no job security. They were at the will of the school board and the administration. If they weren't doing a good job, they could be released without any hesitation. Their job was posted annually, and that a local school district had to hire a higher tiered licensed teacher if one became available and was acceptable. The goal there was to make sure that we didn't take a Tier 2 or Tier 3 teacher that had been released or for non-renewal only and not allowed continuing contract rights to then come in and say, well, I'm a Tier 2 teacher, you have to hire me now for this Tier 1 slot when we've already proven that they're not effective in the classroom. We then took the Commissioner's request to add a content test for upon renewal for the secondary teachers, and we put a stronger language in place for the Pellsby Board to review and deny these applications, where in the Senate bill at least they were based, you know, Pellsby Board had to issue based on the just on the recommendation of the school board. And so now we're adding in the teacher shortage piece. I think it's a good compromise along with, along with the other pieces that we've discussed. And members, I recommend that we adopt it. I just want to make very clear for the record, there are a number of controls here. The goal has always been that a Tier 1 teacher would move to a Tier 2 or a Tier 3 license at some point in time. That we don't want an unlimited, we really don't want these teachers in the classroom for an unextended period of time, but we also trust our local school boards to put a qualified teacher in. I know when I was on the board, if I heard from a parent by email, I called the superintendent. I talked to the superintendent next time I saw her. If someone called me, I'd talk to her the next day. If I got more than one request or one complaint, I was on the phone with her that night. I have never, ever met a school board member, a superintendent, a principal that hasn't wanted a qualified teacher leading that classroom. I have never met a principal or superintendent or administrator that hasn't spent hours talking about making sure that we're evaluating these candidates and giving them critical feedback to make their jobs better. And I think this is one piece that in the compromise, it probably makes it a little stronger, but I felt it was pretty strong to begin with. There, I'm done with my soapbox, and I hope I entertained you again, Representative.
Very good, Senator Pratt. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the A42 amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails, and the A42 is adopted. So, members and audience, we're waiting for an additional amendment that is being prepared. I think, excuse me. No. I'm going to give my speech now. Mr. Sia. So during this holding pattern, most of you know that this pursuit of reform began a year ago, and that one of the goals of the study group was to clean up the statutes. That was very important to us, that we not have confusion in our statutes so that when newcomers or present teachers or others reading our language could follow it, it would be clear, it would be concise, it would be simple to the extent that we can make statutes simple. It would have all the qualities of good writing. And with that, that was the direction that we gave council, in particular, Ms. Para, because we charged her with preparing this. So she reorganized, and we changed language little by little with help from our council as well as our partisan staff. And I think what we accomplished here is very readable, very understandable, and very encouraging to those who are seeking licensure from out of state or who are presently licensed in Minnesota, who will have a clear definition now of the 4 tiers. I also want to state at this time, and I'll restate it in my motion, that there are technical changes, Ms. Para and Senate Council, that need to be made, and in particular you, Ms. Para, because we have charged you with doing this. So keep in mind that the commissioner will speak to you. She has a concern about evaluation in regard to principals who want to retain their teacher licenses. And on page 52, following line 21, Ms. Para and others, we may need some clarification that any license that expires before the effective date is still in effect. So just make sure that there's no confusion there for those who may have let their license lapse, for example, or in this little transition time period. So make sure that any license that expired before the effective date is still recognized as effective, and there will be other technical changes too. Other comments from members, I don't think I want to belabor this, because I could go through all of the discussions we had with the commissioner, but I think in reading the language, you know that we have listened, we have compromised. I think we've met some really good compromises, and, our personal feelings, I have to set mine aside, Senator Pratt, because I know I always give you such a bad time. But we're really good friends, but believe me, we've had some go-arounds, but that's made this more interesting for me, certainly. Want to thank those in the audience who serve on the Board of Teaching presently. I know Aaron Doan's in the audience, so is Nels Onsted. Thank you for your service. You'll be moving on. I served on the Board of Teaching, as you know, in the 90s. In fact, I served right as the community expert was being enacted under former Governor Arnie Carlson. So at that time, he foresaw, at least, as did the board, a need to rely on for emergency uses. It was considered then for a community expert. And from my reading of these minutes, and I have them all here from the Board of Teaching from July on, I can see that we have a very robust need, I would say, for a Tier 1, and I think we have amended it just fine. So with that said, and reminding council again that the technical changes need to be made by you and the reviser, and I will have that in my final motion, but it is very important when we're adopting a delete all and then onto a conference committee report that we know that they've been given direction. So we have our last amendment here.
Madam Chair, we're just checking it to make sure it does exactly what we want it to do. Is it good? Madam Chair, I would like to offer the A44 amendment. If I could get a page. Madam Chair, while the amendment's being
Yeah,
handed
Senator
out,
Pratt.
what this amendment does, we've had a number of conversations with the commissioner, and I think it's always been our goal to make sure that, as I mentioned before, we have professional, qualified teachers in the classroom. This would then reinforce that with the Tier 4. To say that a Tier 4 license has to have met the coursework of a state-approved teacher prep program.
Discussion from members.
One moment, madam.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the commissioner was signaling me, but she was signaling somebody else. This was a compromise that we arrived with the commissioner, and we think enhances the status of the Tier 4 license even where it was when we first presented in the DE amendment. And I would open it up for any questions or comments.
discussion? Senator Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Pratt, thank you. This has been a robust discussion, and we're all, I think, very committed to trying to strike the proper balance that allows flexibility, but also maintains the kind of great teaching standards and quality that we want for our kids.
Further discussion? Okay, I think with discussion ceasing, Senator Pratt renews his motion that the 844 amendment be adopted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails, and the 844 is adopted. Further discussion? Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we adopt the amendment, I'd like to give, I guess, my little speech
Yes,
for a
please.
moment. And first off, thank Representative Erickson for her partnership, not only as we've discussed this bill, but going back to my working on the study group last summer. She's been a wealth of information with her experience as a classroom teacher and as a former board member of the Board of Teaching, and I just can't express how much I appreciate your thoughts and guidance and mentorship through this program, or through this bill. I want to thank our Senate staff, too. They've done a terrific job throughout the interim, and as you've seen yet today, the last-minute changes that we tend to put them through, and the way that they can scramble to get the concepts that we as legislators come up with, not always clearly defined, but put it down on paper so it makes sense when it goes into law. I want to thank Senator Kent for serving on the conference committee and being a good resource to me. I want to thank Senator Housley, Dames, Clausen, Uyghur, and former Senator Dahl, working with them throughout the interim on the study group as well as the House participants. I thought it was a good exercise. It was a good exercise for us to go through. It was a good exercise for us to hear from stakeholders. And I hope what you see in this final bill is the reflection of the work that the legislative auditor did, the work that the study group did, and the work that those stakeholders brought into the process for us. And so I just want to thank you, Representative Erickson, and everyone involved. And I'm excited to pass this bill and put it on the governor's desk.
Thank you, Senator Pratt, and thank you to you also, because you brought a different perspective to this. And thank you, nonpartisan staff and partisan staff. I think when we had our meetings, we had more great discussion on every issue that was arising, whether it was from us or from the commissioner, that anyone could expect. You know, it's almost sad that we couldn't have the public view us, because it is really an experience that's so invaluable. And then to have the stakeholders coming to us as they saw these different drafts and gave input. So this is indeed a proposal that I hope certainly goes forward and the governor signs it, that I think will have a lasting effect on a reform of the licensure as well as the governing for our teachers and our future teachers, and also for those who work in our schools, like our paraprofessionals, because we've covered probably every perspective of the profession in this bill. So members, with that, I will renew my motion that the H0140DE3 amendment be adopted as amended, and that the reviser be directed to prepare a conference committee report to be delivered to staff and then to us. Is there any discussion? And certainly, Representative Bennett, I wanted to thank you. I didn't publicly thank you, but you've been such a great input here. With that said, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails, and the conference committee report will be prepared by the reviser and delivered for signatures. Is there any other business to come before us? Thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.